Perfect. Okay, so we can start with the actual webinar until the other people are confirming their accounts. So just to give you a quick overview of what we're going to talk about tonight. First, I'm going to present the basic functionality from the platform, from Testable. I think maybe half of you have already some experience using Testable. So I'm going to run very quickly through the major features, how you can create projects, how you can modify the existing projects, and how you can collect data. And also I'm going to show you a very cool feature that we just implemented, creating experiments using natural language. Basically, in 1 minute, you can have your psychology experiment up and running. I will do this introduction because it's also useful for testable class. It's useful to know how to create the tests that you want to include in your class. Again, for everyone that join a bit later for the webinar, you can raise your hands anytime you have a question. And you can chat with me, and you can also post questions, and I will try to answer them during the presentation. If you look to the top left corner, that's where all these options are: raise hands, Q&A, and so on. Okay, so a first overview of Testable. Testable is basically a platform that helps you manage your psychology experiments, your behavioral experiments. It helps you with the creation of the experiments. You don't need any programming language in order to create experiments. It's very, very fast. I presume it's the fastest tool out there to create experiments. It's very flexible, so you can create simple experiments, but also quite complex experiments. And also, if you stay within the 100 megabytes space quota for your stimuli, it's free. If you are working in an academic institution, you can use it for free. Just to show you how you can create a project, the easiest way to start is to use the quick project option that we developed. So let me also add some highlight to my cursor so that I can easily follow where I'm clicking. Hopefully that's not too distracting. So if you click on quick project, then you get a window pop up, and you have to describe in natural language the kind of experiment that you would like to generate, to create. So let's say I want to present 3 images per trial, format JPEG or PNG, or you have some other options here. I want to display them simultaneously or sequentially for unlimited time or for a limited time. Let's say here simultaneously for a limited time of 2000 milliseconds with no mask afterwards. Okay, I'm just gonna plug in my computer. That's the only thing I didn't think of. Okay, so that should be fine. Then you can select if you want to present some text on top of your stimuli, maybe some instructions that you have for every trial. Let's say that we want to select that. Then you have to say how you want your participants to respond. If you want them to respond, you can also select not to allow this possibility. For example, when you're just presenting some stimuli and you want the participants to process them without expecting any response. But if you want the participants to respond, then you have some options to select. So they can press keys, they can click on the buttons, or they can type, let's say pressing keys, and you can also select what keys you would like them to press. There is a correct response defined. That's in case you want to compute on the go the average correct score. Let's say for now there is no correct response defined. And then how many screens with instructions at the start of the experiment you need, how many practice trials, and how many main trials. Let's say, I don't know, 3 practice trials, one screen with instructions, and then let's say 10 man trials. And trials should be randomized. And then you click on Generate Project, and the project is automatically created for you. You can find it at the top of your project list. So that's quick project 1. Obviously now, if we click on this link, this is the link where you have your experiment up and running. That's going to run, but that's going to run with some images that are pre-created by us. I assume that you would like to modify that and to present your own images. This is quickly just to show you how this looks like. That's a calibration screen. That screen you can select as an extra option to your test to make sure that the size of the stimuli appear the same regardless of the resolution of the screen. This is the one instruction screen that you selected that you want to have, and this you can type here. You can type your title and your instructions. You can modify all of this in the spreadsheet that is associated with this test. I will show you immediately. And then these are the trials. The first trial, you can see 3 images, what we selected for 2 seconds on the screen. And this is the text that we want to appear in each trial. So in order to customize that and to make it work for you, you have here a space for the stimuli, where you just need to upload your own stimuli. You just drag the files here, and they're going to be uploaded. And then you also have a space for trial file. And that's the spreadsheet containing information about all the experiment. If you download that, you'll see it's a CSV file. Let's save it like that. And then you can start customizing this trial file. So you can modify the name of the images to appear in each trial. First, the first row presents the titles of the columns just to help you orient with this spreadsheet. So each column is an attribute that can be or defined or can be skipped during one trial. So that's just the title of the column. It's basically the name of the attribute that you want to define. And the only column or the only information that is required for every trial is the type of the trial. So it can be type instructions in case you present text, type practice in case you want practice trials, and type test in case you want normal main trials to record responses from participants. For the instruction screen, you can see here in columns title and content, you can define the title that you want. Let's say my first experiment. And in the content, you can say you need to press keys A, S, or D as fast as you can. You can type whatever you want there. And this is one button that you want to have on the screen on which it says next. You can have up to 12 buttons, or you can also define some certain keys like space key or enter key that participants can press in order to advance from this trial. In this case, it's one button which says next. And if we go to the practice trials, you see we are presenting 3 images, image1.jpg, image2.jpg, and image3.jpg. We can modify the names of these files. I will not modify them now because then I will have to upload the stimuli, but this is where you define the names of the images that you want to present. This is the ITI, intertrial interval. That's the interval before the start of the trial. You'll see that it's a small delay. And then in column keyboard, you define the options for the responses that you want from participants. In this case, you're going to enable only keys A, S, and D, and nothing else is going to work. So participants need to press either A or S or D in order to advance from this trial. Presentation time, 2000 milliseconds. And this is the text that you can modify for the text that appears in each trial. Let's say for the first one, that's my first trial. And you can see this column randomizes all these trials, the practice trials first, the block that is marked with 1, and then the test trial, the block that is marked with 2. Let's get rid of the randomization just for now to make sure that the first trial actually is going to be the first trial, and then we see this text. So you need to save this CSV, and after you save it, you need to upload it back here. So you just drag and drop it. And once it's up there, you just refresh the page with the experiment. It's going to start from the beginning, and it should have the options that we define. We modified the instruction screen, and we also modified the text for the first trial. This calibration screen. Okay, so we modify the title, my first experiment, and then you see the content. You need to press keys A, S, or D as fast as you can, and this is the button that we define. Next, and then that's my first trial, and you see the images. You can have up to 6 images on the screen at the same time, but you can also have sequential presentation. You can vary the interstimulus interval. You can choose different response options for participants. They can press on the images, for example, click on the images, or you may want to put a response box on the screen. Basically, you can do everything that you can think of. I think we cover pretty much all the response options that are out there. But the point of this webinar is not to introduce you or to show you all the advanced features in Testable, but actually to show you Testable class, how you can use a new module that we developed in order to teach psychology through experiments, to engage your students in the class in psychology experiments. So that was just a quick introduction on how you create experiments here. Okay. Here on the left-hand side, in your main dashboard, you will see that we have a module here that is called Testable class. In order to enable that one, after you sign up for a basic academic account, what you need to do, let me show you, is to go to the profile and then add package. Basically, Testable class is a package on top of your basic academic account. And you see here, for myself, I have lifetime basic academic and lifetime instructor package. If you want to add a package yourself, you need to go here, and then you can select instructor free for 7 days. That's an option that we created especially for this webinar and for you. You should use this one. The normal one is instructor free for the first 7 days, then $49 for each year. This one actually also for the trial period, it asks for PayPal details, and we didn't want that for the webinar. It says here $49 per year. Actually, it's free if you have at least 10 students in your class. And then for the students, if you want your students to sign up for that, they need to select this package, the student package, that's going to be active for 6 months, and it's $29 per student. So once you add these packages, teacher or instructor for yourself, and once your students add their student packages, you can interact with your students through Testable and use this option, Testable class. So as an instructor, as a teacher, you can see here, I'm an instructor. You can create classes, which are basically virtual labs. These are the collection of experiments that you want to have in your class. So, for example, let's say that I want to teach this semester Psychology 101 or Psychology 201 or Introduction to Psychology. I create a new class here. Let me delete this, and then I can show you whole process. Okay, so let's say I create a new class. Class name, like we said, is Psychology 101, Introduction to Psychology. In class description, you can say this course is designed to introduce you to basic psychological phenomena. You can select an image. I prepared one image here. Okay, and then save class. And you see there's going to be a new class created for you. And it's this one, Psych 101, Introduction to Psychology. We have this little toggle here. This class is not live yet, so the students cannot see it. The students can see it only when you enable this class. In a separate screen, I should be logged in as a student. Exactly, you see here some imaginary student that I created. Stephen August, and this is the view that they actually see. So if they click on the classes, they don't see anything because they are not signed up to any class yet, but they can look for classes, they can search for classes, and they will see all the classes that are created by instructors from the same institution. So that's why it's important that both you and your students have the same institution selected in your account, because that's how the matching is going to work. In this case, Stephen, the student, doesn't see anything because I haven't enabled the class. The moment I enable the class, this one should appear under for him here in Find Classes. You see, this is the class that I created, and he can apply for it. So either the student applies for the class, or you can invite the students from your institution to join the class. If you rather prefer that you invite them, you can see here, when you click on the class, you have a tab for Invite, Approve. And here you see all the students, all imaginary students that I created from onecollege.edu, and you can invite the students. Once you invite them, okay, let's see this one, how this works. So you invite this student. Okay, so now this student, Stephen August, that we invited, if you refresh the screen, you see he received the invitation. It says invited, he has to accept it, or he also has a choice to decline it. If he accepts it, then he's enrolled in this class, and this class is going to appear under his classes as well. If he goes inside this class, there is nothing for now because I haven't added anything to the class. So that's what I need to do now. So I go to classes. This is my Introduction to Psychology. And when I go inside this class, I can now start adding tests after I invited all the students that I want. So you have three options to add tests to your class experiments. Either you import them from your projects, so the ones that you created as a user of Testable, like the one that I just showed you, or you can import tests from ready-made. We have around 15 tests already developed for you, covering classic psychological experiments. I will show you immediately those ready-made tests. And also you can create a new test right here in the class. So let's say for now that I want to import tests from ready-made. I can either import them from here, and I go through all the list. Let's select one from here, for example. I can select, let's say, the Ponzo illusion, import to my class. and then you see the Ponzo illusion experiment is in your class now. It's not live, so the student is still not going to be able to see it. But you can work with it, you can customize it, you can modify some options in the setup. For example, if you are not happy with the name, or if you are not happy with the description that we provide to some of these tests, we also provide some description of the phenomenon that is measured. You can add some project duration, let's say 10 minutes, so the students know how long it takes for them to complete the experiment. You can change the language. I guess for the current audience, it's not the case because all of you are from US and UK. You can password protect it. You can change the image. You can change all these options. If you want a calibration screen at the start of the experiment or not, you can get rid of that, for example, and so on. And you can select where to save the results. In this case, you want to save the results in the cloud, meaning on testable.org. I will show you where the results are going to appear. So once someone completes this test, the test, by the way, can be found at this address, testable.org/t/all that code. Once a participant or a student completes this test, the results are going to appear here in this space. Now you can see 0 results. Okay, so this is how you import the tests from ready-made, from here, from within the class. You can also check all the ready-made tests that we have developed. If you click on the ready-made tests here, so we have the eyes test for emotion or for sex recognition. We have a face matching test. We have a flanker test, the horizontal vertical lines illusion, one implicit association test for sex. You can easily customize that for other dimensions. We have a lexical decision, a memory test, Ponzo illusion, the one that we just imported, Posner, Stroop task, some thinking tests, experiments, a visual search, and the Ways and selection task. This Ways and selection task is also included in the thinking. And we're going to keep on adding more and more tests here. So let's import memory. I want to import it to Introduction to Psychology. Okay, and let's import also the Stroop test and the visual search. Okay. And that should be enough. We can also select the thinking if we have time. I can, well, let's select visual search first. We import it. Then I can select thinking just in case we have time. Okay, so all these tests that we imported should be available in your class now. So if we go back to our class, Introduction to Psychology, we go inside, and then you see all these tests that we just imported: the Ponzo illusion, memory, Stroop task, visual search, and thinking. So you can create the class at the beginning, at the start of the semester, for example, add all the tests, all the experiments that you want to demonstrate during the semester, and then choose when to make these experiments available for students to see them. Now the students don't see anything. They will see the experiments only when you make them available. So if I make this one live, they're going to see in their class only this Ponzo illusion experiment. I can switch back to the student account. I am in Introduction to Psychology. I can refresh the page, and then you see here the test, the one that I made available. You can see it's marked as new. We have a new indicator for 7 days, so the students are also going to be notified when there are new tests in their class. And the only option that is available to them for this test is to run it. To be participants in this experiment. And every time they run it, the results are going to be saved and they're going to appear here. There are some other options that you can mark for each test. So you can mark it for credit. Especially in US, the students have to complete a certain number of experiments for credit, and that's an easy way to keep track of all the credits that you need to give to the students at the end of the semester or during the semester. So if you mark it for credit, we refresh again, and you'll see they're going to have an indicator here for credit. And if they click on test for credit, they're also going to see this test here. This is a space where they're going to see only their tests available for credit. Okay, if we go back, you can also allow the students to import the test under their account. If you select this option, they're going to be able to import it, but they will not be able to modify it. So if I go back to the student space and refresh, you can see now I have an option to import the test. If I import it, it's imported. Now it's going to appear under my test. So that's a clone of the test that the teacher had in his or her class. It's an independent clone, but a clone that is not possible to be modified by the student. So in this case, the student has a different link to the experiment. So he can go around and collect data for this experiment. But just because we selected for the test not to be able to be modified, changed, all the results that are going to be here, that are going to appear in the student account, are also going to be aggregated at the teacher level. So effectively, what you can do, let's say you have a Ponzi illusion test and you want to collect 100 data from 100 participants, you can send this test to 10 students and ask each student to collect 10 participants. So in the end, all the 100 files with results are going to appear under your account, and each student is going to have only the results that they collected, so only 10 results here. If you want to allow the student to modify it as well, we can make it for another test so that you can see the difference. So let's say, and we don't mark this for credit. So we have the memory test. It's live, the student can see it, they can import it, and they can modify it. If I go back to demo test and I refresh, I should see also the memory. You see it's not for credit, so if I click on test for credit, it's not going to appear. And I have the option to import it. If I import it, it's going to appear under my account. But in this case, you see an extra button here, copy, which means duplicate it. So I still have this clone, which is linked to the original test. So if I use this link, again, all the results are going to be aggregated at the teacher level, but I can also generate a completely independent clone, which I just did. And for this independent clone that is here, I have all the options that I need to modify it as I see fit. So I can go into the setup, I can see the trial file. Oops. I should be able to see the trial file. Only if I make it live, I hope. If not, we need to get to it. Anyway, you should be able to see the trial file, the students in my test. Oh, because I made the, no, I'm going to try again, but okay, it's not this. The students should be able to see the trial file and the stimuli and the consent form here, and they're going to be able to modify all of this, and they have their own version of the test. And the results are going to appear only here in their own version of the test. They're not going to be aggregated, they're not going to be sent further to the teacher. Okay, so this is about the tests. You can also, in every test, you can design some very neat visualization for the students, for the participants, when they complete the test. So what they will see at the end. For the ready-made test, we've already done that. So there is some debrief text that appears at the end of the experiment. In this case, great job, you are done, thank you for participation. But here you can include some other debrief text, and also some visuals. In this case, another page with a title, Ponzo illusion. In this task, the black lines create the illusion that the top orange line is bigger than it really is. And you can add the type of visualization that you want for your results, for the participant results. I think it's best if we go through one of these tests together. Let's do it for the Ponzo illusion. Let's just wait another half a minute because that's very few of you who finished. I don't know if you check the results when you got to the end of the experiment. You could see, hopefully, a page that shows you how well you did during the experiment, and also an explanation for your results. We can also see pretty much the same information at a teacher level. We can see all the aggregated data rather than individual data in the visualization button. So let's say we want a line chart with maybe correct responses. And we can add this visualization here. Still waiting for a few results to finish. It's not going to show results, or there are very few, just to preserve the anonymity of the data. We are thinking that if the results here are going to be shown with only 1 or 2 or even 3 participants, then it's going to be possible for teacher to identify where the data came from. So we are restricting at the moment the visualization. It's going to be shown, I think the minimum is 5 or 6 results, something like that, so that it becomes impossible to identify where the data came from which student. And you'll see again here, it's 0 results because you are not students in the class. Only if a student completes this experiment, only those results count here, and they're going to be included in the visualization. Just for exemplification, let me show you another class, I think in this one, which is not visible anymore. But here you see we have a few results, and then you can visualize the data. That is data coming from a previous class. It was a face car Mooney task with 2 factors, one referring to the orientation of the images, so inverted and upright, and the other one to the type of the objects, cars and faces. And you can see the performance. People did very well with upright cars, not so well with inverted cars, and the other way around with faces. Probably they should be good with upright faces as well here. I don't know why the results came up like that. So this is the type of visualization that you can get, and you can get that in real time in the class from your students. So every time a student finishes the test and you refresh this, you're going to see new data on the screen. So you can have bar charts. You can also select some conditions that you don't want to appear on the chart. You can have tables. You can have line graphs, and that's about it. And the dependent variables can be the percentage correct, or the response times for all the trials, or the response times for the correct trials. Okay, so back to the classes. I just noticed there was something that I forgot to show you in the class. So if you go to the class, I wanted to show you the information that you get about the about the students. So in this class, to the class that we just created, we only have this imaginary student that signed up, Steven August, and you see this information about him. So he has 3 tests under his account. These are the tests that you can find here, the ones that he imported. He doesn't have any tests completed for credits yet, so he didn't complete any of the tests here. In this case, was only one available for credit. When he clicks on run and gets to the end of this test, then he's gonna, this number here is gonna modify to 1, so he's gonna receive 1 credit. So it's 1 credit per test. That's important to know. And also he hasn't collected any results. So if you go to any of his tests, all the results here are 0. You can also email him directly, but not through Testable, through your normal email program if you click here. And I think that's pretty much everything about the interaction with the students. I haven't shown you how to import tests from my projects, but it looks or it is very similar to the option of importing ready-made tests. So this is the list of all the projects that I have created with Testable. As you can see, it's a long list in my case. So I can import any of these. Let's say CFPT original. That's the Cambridge Face Perception Test. So once I import that, again, it's gonna appear among the tests that I have here in my class. You can have an unlimited number of tests. You can see here the CFPT original, again, not visible. That's the default option. So if you want the students to see it, you make it visible, and then you can play also with the other options if you want to make it available for credit, and if you want students to be able to import it and to modify it. You can also easily duplicate the tests here. You can delete the tests, obviously, and you can modify all the information. So it is super flexible. Sometimes maybe you would like to introduce the test in a different way, or you'd like to modify the stimuli to make it more interesting, more engaging to your students. In this case, you have total control. So we provide some tests, but then once they are imported in your space, you can choose to do whatever you want with them. You can modify them. Completely. I understand that maybe not everything is clear immediately, but you are welcome to contact us at any point. Also, I understand that I glanced quite quickly over the features that we have available in Testable in the platform, how you can modify and create experiments using Testable. We have a manual for that available online, and you can consult it. And again, you can also write us some questions